Hey, what's up? This is Cam from the Brother Slim, and today, as you can see on the screen, there's an update for Kingdoms Forlorn. We're not going to cover the actual update per se, because it's basically saying, hey, here's a new pledge manager. What's the name of it? Enormity is on the way, and ATO is shipping. So standard fare there, but the bulk of the update is this new late pledge and pledge manager. So I cover it. It's been out for a long time. The game's working its way towards delivery either end of this year or no, I think early next year is the current estimate. So why cover it indeed? That's because it's gotten a huge facelift. So why was this done? So GameFound, and I can actually speak to authority there because I work for GameFound, is getting rid of the old pledge manager system, which Kingdoms Forlorn was on. So this is the new version, which has much more featureability, visibility, things you can do with it. You can actually comment, and there's more updates and all that kind of good stuff. But also stretch pay and other features are available too. So if you missed out on the game before, or if you're thinking about getting more stuff, this is the time and place to do it. And big disclaimer also, if you are a previous backer, like I was before I ultimately had to cancel my pledge, don't worry if your stuff doesn't show up here. From my understanding, it shouldn't show up in this pledge manager. It's archived in the previous one, in which ITU has access to for when the time comes. Just make sure that you're using your same email address if you decide to get more stuff. But yeah, so that disclaimer out of the way, let's take a look. So part of the reason why I wanted to take a look too is it's such a cool comparison seeing how far their assets and everything has come since the original campaign. I think one of the critiques I would levy to ITU is they have so much amazing content and so many amazing things hidden that they often purposely want to keep hidden at the launch of a campaign, that it can make the value proposition seem lower than it actually is. So I think Kingdoms Forlorn especially was the case of this. So if I remember correctly, when the campaign launched on Kickstarter, they had the base pledge and then the base pledge plus expansion, and that was it. So the campaign page didn't have very much, especially when all the stretch goals and things that were yet to be unlocked weren't there either. So the value proposition seemed low. If you were a new backer, if you purchased ATO, like myself and a lot of others, you knew what was coming and that this is just the tip of the iceberg. But that value proposition for potential backers off the start, rather than bet, can seem a little bit lower. So this is a great kind of scroll through to see how much stuff is actually in the game. And I was going to look at webarchive.com to see if I could track down the original campaign when it launched to see, but it's down, so can't do that. But if it comes back up in the new feature, I would recommend just seeing that comparison, because it's pretty cool. And we also get to see more art assets for the game too, which is great. So let's scroll through a couple here. This is the Red Kingdom of Eshin with Starved, I think they're called, these kind of hunger peasants, which are very cool. The Bountiful Harvest, Barony. Said that in reverse. Very cool. Any of the new ones? My assumption is that is the Sunken Kingdom of Uchabank. And then probably Principality of Stone. But anyways, just cool art. I'm loving how there's a little bit more color. This picture's been on display for a long time and is awesome. And I'm a huge sucker for this logo. It's so good. I really, really enjoy it. Okay, so I did actually try to record this yesterday, but my computer was crapping out on me. We'll see if it does better today. Here's an example of some new art as far as I'm aware, which I love. So it's a whole bunch of the knights. We got Renholder, Parashkalshka, Parasalsa, and Sir Sanch, if I remember his name correctly. Then this guy I can't remember. Little Sir, which is lovely. And then King Edelhart, I think his name is, which is the Puppet King, which is really cool mini. We'll touch on this later as we go through here too, but generally speaking, I'm not a fan of miniatures that are in this sitting kind of pose. I think it's hard to have them like really have much of a presence when they're sitting down. Kingdoms Forlorn minis though, they look pretty awesome. We'll see some sculpts at least soon. So Kingdoms Forlorn. At dawn, God created the world and it was good. At dusk, he created man with an immortal soul, but weak to temptation. At night, darkness brought the devils out. Welcome to the Forlorn world. Indeed, Kingdoms Forlorn is an epic, dark, medieval fantasy board game for 1 to 5 players. Dive into an immersive world filled with rich storytelling, endless roguelite adventures, and tactical battles against fearsome monsters. Yes, very cool. So for anyone not in the know, differences between ATO, little accidental rhyme there, are really focused on your character story. So you play as a knight, and you have a specific book of story for the character that you play through, which is really neat. I am really enjoying the big epic sweeping story of ATO, but having that personalized story that kind of interweaves with other characters in a more intimate fashion is really cool. It also switches up the exploration phase into what they call a delve, which is kind of a build your own map as you go with various things that you need to do, which sounds like a lot of fun too. I will say, and this is as someone who hasn't played the game, but just seeing some of the development, it feels like there's a little bit more of a heavy mental load in this game than ATO, which is saying something, with the dice and card play and combat, and then also some of the other mechanics that come into play when you're doing the delve. So like there's a adventuring in the fog mechanic. There are various different encounters that aren't actually on the general fight board, among others. So it feels like there's a lot of things to have in the mental hood, shall we say. It's one of the reasons why I ultimately ended up canceling my pledge. Just don't have a huge amount of time to game. And with ATO, all 12 seasons of Heracles on the way, like that's a huge amount of gaming, especially doing my own solo Kingdom Death thing too. So I love the idea of this game, and I think it would be so much fun if I had more disposable income and more time. But being able to cover it in this way, it gets the goat a little bit too, which is good. Yes, we won't read through all this just because it's fairly substantial to read through, but we will take a quick look at the art. So, yep, that's cool. Cool. This one now. So this is the Red Kingdom, and it shows off, I can't remember the official name, but the Blood Devil. And then I don't know who's got the gun there, but that's going to be one of the knights, and this is the specific knight for the kingdom. Nice samurai photo, which is pretty neat. Also kind of love the jacket. I'm sure it's like a Japanese style thing, but it just gives me One Piece vibes. With not actually wearing it, just with the collar. Love that. And this will be the Sunken Kingdom of Uchibank with the First Men, which are very much like Roman primates, and I'm here for it. And then the Great White Ape Troll in the background. Okay, so this just kind of touches on what we talked about at the very beginning about like, why is this a thing? And here we are with the actual core game content. So again, this is just the basic core game thing. And it'll go into the sculpts in closer detail too. So there's all the minis that are included, which is quite substantial, especially considering this game is originally going to be boss minis and standees, and character minis too. And then it breaks down some of the content as well. So this was shared in a recent update that I think I covered here too, actually, where it shows the 3D representation of what they're doing with the box, which I freaking love. Personally, I love the kind of medley. So looking at Aeon Trespass boxes, just looking at it up on my shelf here, the white box, love it or hate it. And in my opinion, it's a little bit too plain, and I really wish that the iconography on it stood out a little bit more. But there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's fine. And then the art that they have on display for the 12 seasons of Heracles, the 12 sins of Heracles box, the season boxes, are very much the opposite direction, where it's like big graphic art based in world. It's fine too, but I really, really like what they're doing for Kingdoms Forlorn here, where it's kind of like a melding of both, where there's some really simple and effective visuals tied in with the logo and an image on the top. I really like it. And I think we'll see more art of it too. So these are a bunch of components. Once again, just really good job illustrating all of the stuff that you get in this game. So there's the map tiles for the delve, some of the AI and BP cards, body part cards for anyone unfamiliar with the game, and just love the thematic art that goes with everything. Like Kingdom Death is, I think, a great comparison here, where their AI and body part cards will have the same art on it per boss monster that you fight. And just how this art tells little stories as you play is awesome. I love it. Per every card, which has got to be exorbitantly expensive to pay out. And so locations in the main box are Principality of Stone and the Sunken Kingdom of Uchibank. So good art, and here we go. So all the unlocked goodies. You get the 5 knights, Karam, Sir Sanch with a little Sir on top, which is very cool. Renholder, the mage knight, which looks so sweet. Fresh Critter, could really see Sean playing this character. Sausage-based knight, love it. And then Paracelsa, kind of holy Avenger lady person. The Saint minis, favorite by far is the swole dude with the book. Just looks so cool. Little-headed big brain guy is also fantastic too, but these guys all really look awesome. I think this is Kane here with like the chain weapon, also very neat. Yeah, they're all super neat. And then we get to see all of the mob miniature sculpts. Some of these further down might be updated, but so using a comparison of the campaign, a lot of these were just 2D art assets and they weren't done in sculpt form. So being able to see everything in 3D sculpts is great, and I'm looking forward to more updates showing the hard plastic stuff. What we've seen already looks really good, if you ask me, though. So the mob miniatures, you get the Ironcast Dead, your classic skeletons. You get the First Men of the Ruins, those Roman monkeys, very cool. Rat Wolves, I think these are a really good interpretation of how I picture were-rats in other forms of media, and they're really neat and creepy. Haunts of Uchbank, kind of ghostly fellows. Then another just example of all of the various cardboard and card stuff that you get, with some various breakdowns of it too. Ivy Garden, I think this might actually be, yeah, so this is the fog, dipping into the fog mechanic that I mentioned above. You live and you died. We always get you died in ATO without fail. And then a breakdown of all of the stuff, which is so much stuff. More different components. Once again, love the art. Humpty Strike, beautiful, love it. And there we go, so front of the box. So we get that really cool kind of location, and just kind of drifts into the graphic design on the edges. I like it. I think that's a wicked box art. 10,000 Succulent Fear. So this is the expansion, which is also available on day one when the campaign launched. So we'll scroll through and go through the actual list here. So it comes with the Swartzreich and Ancestor Ruins. If I recall correctly, those are either dungeons or some sort of like special locations to go to. I can't remember the specific terminology. And the minis. We get Panzergeists, Armored Ghosts, which is kind of a fun take on ghosts. First Men Lictor Hunters, which are camo monkeys. Very cool. Then you get the Stone-Faced Knights, as well as Sir Ubar. I think this was actually clarified as being in the base game, because it is a stretch goal, which they decided to release. And so I'm pretty sure this is actually in the base game, not in this expansion. But really cool concepts, it's kind of teased in a little bit of lore that they shared so far. Was he a monkey first, or was he a man first? And really cool seeing the sculpts. It's been on display before elsewhere, but seeing it alongside everything else just looks great. And the Vassal Minis. So you get the Night Eater with his pinchy armor-breaking claws, Stonemason Nice with his giant anvil mace, and the Bog Witch, which I'm actually pretty impressed with the sculpt, because again, kind of like sitting minis, like it's very static and stumpy, for lack of better words. But there's a lot going on with it, and I think it works quite well, which is cool. There's also a crocodile on the top, which crocodiles are cool. The Young Devour Dragon, such a cool take on a dragon. I think it's one of the huge strong points of this game, is dragons are so cool in any medium. They're awesome, but they're also they're done to death, for lack of better words. So being able to put a unique twist and flavor on them is fantastic. And this one kind of gives me Anglerfish of the Sky vibes, and being incorporate the tower and having it flying that way, really neat. I do think incorporating the tower into it probably makes the dragon smaller, which might be credence for it being a young Devour Dragon, but it's really cool. Kind of like Anglerfish meets Whale Shark. Very neat. And more content. So there's the box art for it, which again, love the art. Cool. All right, come on, load in. Cool. So now we're into the expansion. So if I recall correctly, the expansions were released maybe based on funding, and then obviously they were add-ons, which then there was the all-in pledge as well. But for these especially, there wasn't all of the sculpts available, and we get to see them all now, which is fun, and more art too, which is great too. So Red Clergyman, I think the guy's name was, I can't remember. There's art of the Pope, very neat, and so thematic. Really interesting mix of like religion with kind of like a Asian vibe to it, which is really neat. So Rainier, the Excommunicated, kind of big-haired vampire samurai vibe. Very cool. There's definitely some discourse that saw it in some of the comments on this already about his hair and such. I am not an expert in miniature sculpting by far, but from my understanding, things do shrink down from a sculpt to the actual miniature. So I would reserve critique until we actually see a prototype of the mini itself. I think it's fine though. Big hair is cool. Monk of Thirst. So some more of those guys. Starved Mob. I do think these sculpts are a little static in comparison to a lot of ITU's most recent stuff. But I mean, it's creepy worm peasants with masks. So like they're cool, they're creepy, and being a little static is fine. Vassals. Red Clergyman, I was right. And then the Penitent Crusader. So also this pretty static pose, but it's very kind of golem-like, and I think it's very fitting. I like the blood on the sword too, it's a neat touch. Icar Pope, this guy might be an outdated sculpt. If I remember, they had an update a while back about redoing some things, and I don't know if this is the updated version or not. Blood Drenched Devil. Very cool indeed. And then the Holy Dragon. Yep, that is a wild miniature, that is for sure. Continuing on, so here we are, more kind of things. Cool. And the art. Then the Barony of Bountiful Harvest. So my original plan for this game was, I think I backed the 10,000 Succulent Fears, so like the deluxe base expansion thing or whatever. And then my plan was, after Wave 1 delivered, was probably going to grab this. As a little bit of personal info, my wife is a gardener, and her old D&D character got our entire group super hooked on mushrooms. And so, like, this is just too fitting. It's such a cool expansion. And, yeah, I wanted to get it and play through it with her, although realistically, I think this game would be not quite her cup of tea. Yeah, so let's go through this. Awesome artwork. Delphine the Grim Gardener, really cool concept for a character. And Secateurs style is what she's doing with her swords here, which is kind of a fun play because Secateurs are gardening tools. And so that's just a really fun implementation of real world stuff with the game itself and the game world. Bloom Aristocracy. So these are basically flower nobles, and I love this idea. In Kingdom Death, if anyone follows my playthrough there, I've got a Flower Knight, and I was really trying to make a flower head kit bash work in place of the really cool owl helmet, but the flower bush miniature thing that I have is a little bit too big, so it didn't work out, unfortunately. But I really wanted to try and replicate like the King in Bloom kind of idea that we'll see in a minute here. Gloom Aristocracy, so mushy fungal nobles. Just so much character in these. Sculpted bases look great, love it. Then the two vassals, we get the Floral Chevalier, which originally when I saw the art, I was really hoping that this was going to be a player character, or a player knight, but a cool boss is fitting too. Madcap Inquisitor, also cool. Then the King in Bloom, so here we are once again, a sitting miniature, but there's just so much going on, and it strikes like a very noble, regal pose, and it's just so unique, it's so cool. Ripened Devil, so fungal mushroom devil, very cool, here for it. And then the creme de la creme on top of the giant mushroom bountiful harvest barony is the, what's it called? Mushroom Dragon of the God Cap. This mini is so cool and is such a unique idea that I think it's executed so well. So two-headed dragon is one thing. Two-headed forest mushroom dragon of a tree is another entirely. So really, really cool idea. And I think this is sculpted to the nines. This is a mini that I wish I could still get somehow, even though I'm not going to be getting the expansion or even this game anymore. Okay, a little bit of art there. So really bright and colorful. And I love that they do have a lot of brightness and color in this one because a lot of the other ones are quite dark and gloomy. And then there's the art report. Fun. And so here we are with the pledges. So gameplay all in late pledge. 521 euros, which is a boatload of money. Especially for me being here in Canada, USD is a lot, and then euros is exponentially more. So, what I will say about these games is it's insane the amount of content that ITU manages to put into them. So value, and if you have the time to play it, it's absolutely there. But in comparison to the core pledge, there's so much game in there already that if you're curious, try to fight that FOMO vibe and just get the core base game because there's going to be so much content there. Yeah, so I think this is the one that I got originally before the prices were upped. And just as a heads up too, I think the prices are being upped again in the new year. Basically, if anyone's unfamiliar, ITU does kind of like a rolling price increase the closer that they get to fulfillment. And let's see. Especially also consider too, Enormity's coming out soon, so feel your vibe. Are you into kind of that more Dark Souls, dark gritty fantasy, or some dark horror space kind of things? I went from a hard no back for Enormity to tentatively curious and I might back, depending on pricing. And part of that was actually a comment from Marcin saying that it might be their most affordable game yet. That doesn't mean it's going to be cheap, mind you, but something that's in a bit more of an accessible price point would be really awesome. Yeah, so let's take a look here. So here are just the expansions, if you ever wanted to do just those. And some add-on knights for funsies, which is cool. And some of these are included depending on if you already backed or not too, so just be aware of that. And so these all come with their own unique stories, which will have interplay with other knights, as well as interplay between different things in the kingdoms too, which is cool. I think this is, what is this? Little Sir, which is the monkey mini of Sorsant, which is very cool. And then Princess Slavia, Battle Maiden, heir to the throne of the Commonwealth. So this is a mini from one of ITU's, I think, first releases, which is neat, that they decided to include in here with some content, I believe, too. Card protectors, which is pretty awesome, and then a small thing, but really cool, especially considering I think a lot of the quality of arts in basically all ITU games is including an art book. I like that a lot for sure. And I think that is about it. Let's see. Yeah, that is indeed it. So a lot of cool stuff. And if this was a game that you're curious about, heck, jump in on that base pledge and utilize Stretch Pay. Or if you bought things previously and want to upgrade, I think as of a today update for GameFound, you can actually like add things onto Stretch Pay too. So interesting things to consider. But first and foremost, always be aware of your own budgets and budget and spend responsibly. But yeah, on that note, see you guys next time for probably the next enormity dev dive. Fingers crossed there's another one soon. They've been a lot of fun to cover. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of the week. And happy, what day is it today? Tuesday. Bye!